My mic was muted. Well, hello, welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale, and today we have three things to cover. We got two stories, and we got the Canadian elections to go over. Boy, was it an interesting turn of events that we've had in Canada. But I hope you're all doing very well. I know that I am, and you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon. Before we get started, just a quick reminder, our show goes up every Monday and Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Then we have reruns every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, in case you missed the show. Follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, TikTok, at Homonetian, at SpinCycle Live on all the different platforms. See all of our old episodes up on YouTube. And I guess we should get right into it. And let's start talking about these elections. Because, boy, was it interesting. So, I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff, and I'll level with you all. So this might be more interesting to me than it is for the rest of you. So we'll recap why this is even important in the first place. Canada is our closest ally. They're along our entire northern border. They're the country that basically provides us half of our North American supremacy and keeps trade routes open through the North Pole for us, and basically ensures that we are protected from being invaded by land into the United States. Mexico is also, one of our allies, but we're being invaded by Mexico right now. But that was stopped by Donald Trump. But we were being invaded by Mexico for quite a while. But for all intents and purposes, Canada has provided us pretty good assurances that we're not going to end up having a war with them, which is more than most countries can say. And they're our closest trading ally too. We trade about the same amount of goods back and forth, but Canada relies on us much more heavily than we rely on them. We talked about that on a previous show. All this to say that the new Liberal government that will be going into power, spoiler alert, will not be working as kindly with Trump as a conservative government would have. And it's going to make things a lot harder when it comes to border negotiations, trade deals, implementing trade routes, and just overall partnership. So that's the big thing to learn from this, in my opinion. So this is how the elections went yesterday. So if you don't know, Canada has a parliamentary system, which means that they elect a prime minister out of their parliament. So think of it almost as if we elected the president from a member of the Speaker of the House. It's basically what this is. So this is their House of Commons layout. And this is who runs the country. So the Liberal Party, which is, for all intents and purposes, the far left party now, they were like center left for quite a while, and then Justin Trudeau turned that into a far left, woked out party. They won the elections by a good share. We kind of predicted that was going to happen with the polling and everything. But they didn't get an outright majority, which is somewhat surprising. They came very close. They needed 172 seats for a majority in the House of Commons to have full control of the government. They came in at 169. They were 3 seats short of having an outright majority. The Conservatives came in second place. That is the kind of center-right party. They came in at 144 seats, so they're down about, or actually the Conservatives, the Liberals are up seats. The Conservatives are actually up seats also. They gained seats in the House of Commons this time around, and all the other parties lost seats. So the Quebec Bloc, which is the party that is their entire life's mission is to have Quebec succeed from the rest of Canada and become its own independent country. They came in at 22 seats only in Quebec. We'll show you the map in a minute. But how wild is it that there's a country that they have an entire political party that has seats in the government, in the legislature, that's entire goal is to succeed its section of the country away from the rest of it. That's just wild to me. That's crazy. So the New Democrats, which is the Democratic Socialist Party of Canada, they got 7 seats. They're down. I believe they had somewhere around 20 some seats in the last election. The Greens came in at 1 seat, and then nobody else got anything else. So this is the current makeup of the 2025 Parliament going in. So I suspect that the Liberals will have to form a government with the New Democrats. That's what they did last time. This is actually how they got into this whole mess in the first place, was because the New Democrats were unhappy with the way that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals were running the party or in the country. But they're going to have to the Liberals are going to have to form a coalition government with one of these other parties. And they can't pick the Greens because they need at least 3 seats. So the New Democrats would be the best choice in all of this. So because basically they need to have enough seats to have a majority in the government so that they can then put in their prime minister of their choice. And there's nothing the Conservatives do. The Conservatives could form with all the other parties and still wouldn't have enough seats to form a government. So it's up to the Liberals at this point. Mark Carney will be the next prime minister of Canada. So here's kind of the electoral map. So they've kind of broken this up by the different ridings. So you can see Quebec over here. It's this big block right here, has all of these kind of teal seats. That's the Quebec Party. Red in Canada is for the Liberal Party. It's reversed to what we have in the United States. Blue is the Conservative Party. So we can see that the majority of the Conservative seats came from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and then some from British Columbia. The majority of the Liberal seats came from Quebec, Ontario, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and then some of the other territories as well as British Columbia, the Vancouver area specifically. And no New Democrat seats in Ontario, Saskatchewan, or any of the eastern provinces. So some things happened with all that. So coming down here, Pierre Poilievre, who was the leader of the Conservative Party, he was set. I want to keep in mind how crazy this is, how crazy politics can change things. A few months ago, Pierre Poilievre had a 99% chance of being the next prime minister of Canada. He had a 99% chance of winning the entire election, of the Conservatives having a majority government. The Liberal Party was on the brink of losing its official party status in Canada for how badly it was going to do in this election, right? And Pierre Poilievre on Monday night lost his seat in Parliament. His party didn't just lose its chances of running the country. He himself lost his seat. He lost it to a Liberal. It came in at a 50 to 45% vote share between the two of them. He lost by 5%. 5%. That, I think, was the craziest thing that probably happened that night, was that Pierre himself lost the seat. Like I said, 99% chance of having control of the government right now. He'd be sitting in the prime minister's office at this very moment, and now he's not even in the parliament. Mind blown, right? So that happened, and then Jagmeet Singh, who was the leader of the NDP party right here, he also lost his seat. So 2 party leaders lost their seats in this most recent election. Very interesting to see. So he lost it. He actually came in 3rd place behind the Liberals and Conservatives. So what we've seen happen, I feel, in the Canadian elections is that we really did see the revenge of the boomers here. I can't wait to see the voting demographics here. But I suspect that Canada got an enormous amount of patriotism. They felt very patriotic and got out and voted for the typical ruling party of Canada, which has been the Liberals, even though they're now insane. And the Canadians can't seem to wrap their minds around the fact that the Liberals have been in party for the past 10 years, since 2015. And their country has gone the crapper because of it. But they feel like somehow putting in a new leader is going to change all of that. So both, like I said, both Pierre Poilievre and Yagnit Singh lost their seats. Crazy turn of events that happened. I didn't even notice that he had lost his seat in type, I think yesterday when I was looking this up. So that was interesting to see. Here's how the vote share kind of split up. So you see the Liberals gained 11.1%. The Conservatives gained 7.5%, which is surprising. And then the Greens, the Quebec Bloc, the People's Party, as well as the NDP lost a significant amount of vote share for the country. So most of those Liberal seats came out of the Quebec Bloc as well as the NDP party seats, the National Social Democrats Party. So that's where a lot of those seats came from that the Conservatives and Liberals picked up. So we saw a move back towards the traditional two-party system in Canada and a move away from the other four parties that have been around, even though 3 of those 4 parties still have seats in the parliament. So there was that. Yagnit Singh, by the way, is this gentleman right here, if you didn't know what he looked like. I'm sure you've seen a clip of him if you've been at all paying attention. He's this gentleman with a big fluffy beard. Glad to see him go away. So the last thing I want to talk about was how the polls had projected this election to go about. So I want people to remember that polls can be wrong. And they actually were wrong in this case. So the polls projected that the Liberal Party was going to win 189 seats. And remember, they won 169 seats. So they were 20 seats under what they were going to be. And they projected the Conservatives were going to win 125, when in reality, Conservatives won 144. The Quebec Bloc got squashed. They won significantly less. They only won, let's see, what did we pull up? 22 seats. And they projected 23, so I guess actually not that much less than I thought. So they were pretty right on there. The New Democrats, they were pretty spot on about. New Democrats won 7 seats. They projected 5. Greens won 1 seat. That's what projected. All the parties won 0. So they were off quite a bit in the skew for the Liberals and Conservatives. They still projected a Liberal win versus a Conservative win. And then this is also a likely produced chart where you can see they were both within the ranges, with the Conservatives being more on the high end and the Liberals being more on the low end of these two ranges right here. So it's just interesting to see how they kind of overshot the Liberal win a little bit, at least CBC in Canada did. So, and then the last thing I want to show was the polls. Like I said, probability of winning. As of February 17th, 2025, the Conservatives had a 99% chance of winning a majority in the parliament. And that flipped completely to the Liberals winning, projected to win, having a 98% chance of winning. So this is similar, which is the overall polling. Like I said, I've shown this chart a number of times. I'm sure sick and tired of it. So that's all I got to say about that. Interesting, the update. So keep an eye on what Canada's doing. We'll be sure to cover any other craziness that comes out of that. But don't be surprised if you hear words like the Liberal Party's forming a government with the National Socialist, the NDP party. So that's what's going to happen. Canada's going to continue to be not so great place. Canadians, move to the United States. Come here. It's so much better here. We don't totally have an awful country here. Our country's actually pretty great compared to yours. We have a growing GDP, unlike you. Not to diss Canada. I love Canada. My Canadian friends are great, but like I said, sad news to you. Humbling day, right? So hopefully the Conservatives learn from this. Hopefully they end up picking themselves up by their bootstraps. And when the next elections kind of inevitably roll around, probably in 2 years from now, if we're being completely honest, because the NDP party will get sick and tired of the Liberals. hopefully they can pull through and figure out all the things they did wrong. The Canada is usually a couple years behind the United States too, so I feel like this was kind of Canada's 2020 for the United States, and hopefully Canada's next election will be like the United States' 2024. That's all I gotta say about that. All right, move on to this report from AP News. All right. So this is on a controversial Supreme Court ruling that's coming up. So Roberts might hold key Supreme Court vote over first publicly funded religious charter school. Chief Justice John Roberts appears to hold the key vote over whether the Supreme Court will allow the nation's first publicly funded religious charter school in Oklahoma. Roberts was the only justice whose vote seemed in doubt after the court heard more than 2 hours of arguments Wednesday in a major culture war clash involving the separation of church and state. 4 other conservative justices seem firmly on the side of the St. Isidore of Sellville Catholic Virtual School and the state charter school board that approved it. Quote, they're not asking for special treatment, they're asking for not asking for favoritism. Justice Brett Kavanaugh said, they're just saying, don't treat us worse because we're religious. The 3 liberal justices seem just as likely to vote to affirm any Oklahoma Supreme Court ruling that held that the taxpayer-funded school would entangle church and state violation of the First Amendment. Quote, charter schools are in every respect equivalent to regular public schools, Justice Elena Kagan said. So Amy Coney Barrett recused herself from this because I guess she has a friend who is somehow involved in all this. So there's going to be 8 Supreme Court justices voting instead of 9. If Roberts sides with the liberals, the court would be tied 4-4 for an outcome that would leave the state court decision in place, but would leave the issue unresolved nationally. If he joins his conservative colleagues, on the other hand, the court could find that the taxpayer-funded school is in line with a string of high court decisions that have allowed public funds to flow to religious entities. Those rulings were based on a different part of the First Amendment that protects religious freedom. St. Isidore, a K-12 online school, had planned to start classes for its first 200 enrollees last fall, with part of its mission to evangelicalize its students in the Catholic faith. Opponents warn a decision to allow the school to open would sap money from public schools and possibly upend the rules governing charter schools in almost every state. So I think that's all I found in the article that was really that relevant. So here's my feeling on this. So, I'm a big advocate for school choice. I think that every state should have universal school choice. All the money should be put in the hands of the students and those families to decide where their students go to school and how that money is spent. So if it's a school choice issue, then where the money is attached to the student, where it's going directly to the school from the student, right? It's a voucher program almost. I don't have an issue with religious schools receiving that, because you know what, if that's what you think will best educate your kid, that's where your tax dollars should be going towards. That's the money that was allocated towards your child. You should be able to spend that how you want to in their education. Now, if this is like how a lot of states are, where you don't have any control where that money is spent, and this charter school is getting state dollars that are not directly assigned to students going to it, I have an issue there, right? Because why should my tax dollars have to go and pay for a religious charter school in any sort of way, right? Now, if my tax dollars that are allocated towards my child gets a stipend, right? As school choice works, they should be able to spend that how they want, because that's then the parent's decision, right? I live in a state now that puts money in the hands of the child. The child gets to go to the school that best suits their needs. That money gets to be somewhere the child goes, right? It's just a different exchange of money, is my feeling, in that, hey, you know what? If you're going to force all taxpayers to somehow contribute a little bit to this, I have an issue there. I don't want to do that. But if you want to allow for students to use school choice voucher money to go towards that, I don't have an issue with that. So, Yeah, it'll be interesting how they rule on that. It could be a 4-4 decision because Amy Coney Barrett recused herself, like I said. And yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll try and keep an eye on this and give an update whenever they make the ruling happen. So there's that. And the last story I have today, we'll keep the show under a nice 30 minutes. Comes out of California. I saw this headline from California, and I honestly couldn't believe that this was happening. That this would even be a controversial thing. But apparently in Canada, apparently in California, Canada's not far off. Apparently in California, any sort of common sense statement is controversial in that state. So this comes from the post-millennial. So California Democrats reject plan to make buying sex from 16-year-olds a felony. And this is why, no matter how crazy the Republicans might get, you'll never catch me saying that I am at all aligned with the Democrats whatsoever. California Democrats are blocking a bill that would make it a felony to purchase a 16 or 17-year-old for sex in the state and are instead wanting to give discretion to prosecutors. According to KCRA, Assemblyman Nick Schultz, the chairman of the Democrats in the state's Assembly Public Safety Committee, said that Bill AB 379, which is supposed to crack down on sex trafficking, will go forward on Tuesday without making the purchase of a 16 or 17-year-old for sex a felony. Prosecutors will instead decide if the violations are misdemeanors or felonies. A misdemeanor for purchasing a 16 or 17-year-old for sex. Are you kidding me? There has been a debate surrounding the topic for over a year at the state. For over a year, they've been trying to discuss this and figure out what the right decision is. For over a year, apparently. No wonder the state is so mismanaged. They can't even figure one simple thing out in a whole year of debate. So the debate has been, there's been a debate surrounding the topic for over a year at the state capitol, where Democrats have been debating amongst themselves over the issue. In 2023, it was reported that Republican State Senator Shannon Grove introduced a bill to make the trafficking of minors for sex a serious felony, which was later blocked by Democrats on the Assembly Public Safety Committee. In 2024, a deal was struck between Democrats and Grove to advance the bill, but it would only apply if those minors who were trafficked were under the age of 16 instead of 18. Additionally, the law required that older teens prove they were being trafficked. So not only are we going to allow 16, 17-year-olds to be trafficked, they now have to prove that they actually were. In 2025, the 2025 proposal was written by Democrat Assemblymaker Maggie Krell, who is supporting Grove in her efforts to make it a felony to purchase 16, 17-year-olds for sex. Well, thank God there's at least a couple people who have some common sense in California. My God, this is wild. This is wild. The fact that there'd be any pushback from this in any other state in the country, I would argue, you could go, I shouldn't even say state. If you want to talk to literally anyone on the street and said, do you think it should be a felony for someone to purchase a minor for sex? The answer is yes, it should be. 100% it should be. No question about it. There's no reason it should ever be a misdemeanor. There's no reason why this should even be an argument. I also cannot stand the fact that we are starting to get to a point in our society where we're changing what institutes a minor. So we're going to ban it for under 16-year-olds, but if you're 16 or 17, that's okay. We're going to let it happen for them, right? So now we're moving to say that the age when you're a legal adult is 16 instead of 18, which I completely disagree with, by the way. It's just so wild and so like tone deaf. And it's like, I honestly, like, part of me just wants to go to California and just, like, sit around and see if the people in California are this tone deaf in reality. Because they've elected some pretty freaking idiotic people into their state legislature by the fact that this has been a debate for over a year. This is a no-brainer. And if you think that someone who's under the age of 18 should be able to be sold for sex and it would not be a felony, that's evil. You're disgusting, right? You nasty. If you think that anyone should be able to be sold for sex, you nasty, you disgusting, but especially a child, especially a child, a minor, a literal child. Apparently people think that's okay in the state of California. Shameful. Shame on you, California. Well, that's all we have today on this episode of Spin Cycle Live. Be sure you like, comment, follow, subscribe on all our platforms: Instagram, Rumble, Twitter, now known as X, TikTok, all the places. I say Instagram already. Most active on Twitter. Go follow me there. Interact with me there. Send me a message. Tell me how great I'm doing. Share the show with friends. Tell people how great the show is. Tell people that I bring up such good stories in the show. You feel so enlightened after you watch my show. I talk about so many good things, but so entertaining to listen to. I feel like, I can't see any of you. You can all see me. I can't see you. If I see myself, I'm looking like a mirror reflection of myself on my computer screen right now. And, not to blow my head up a little bit too much, but I would watch me talk about these things. So tell other people they should too. But with that, that's all I got to say for today's episode of Spin Cycle Live. Be sure to share this with friends. Like I said, we have a rerun of the show coming out tomorrow, 8 p.m. If you missed it, if you came in towards the end, you want to rewatch it. All of our old episodes are up on YouTube. But with that, I will see you all again on Monday. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the nice weather. If you live somewhere that has nice weather out right now, pray for Canada. They don't go totally crazy like they have been so far. And with that, I have been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. I will see you all next week. Peace out. Bye.